All right, good morning. We are starting the recording for April 8th Environmental Committee meeting. We have Joyce Marthaler, Jared Simpson, Mary Kay Manns, Karen Johnson from IBTS, and Caitlin McCumsky from the town of Canandaigua. So Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great that we have these digital tools to be able to still kind of move forward with this work. And I appreciate you getting up very early on the West Coast to join us.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you all. And I apologize, I'm having some sort of error with my webcam. So I apologize that you can't see me. It's probably for the best given that it's early my time. Thank you so
Is
much
that
for
3
having
hours?
me.
Is that 3 hours difference there?
It is, yes.
Okay. Still in your jammies, I guess.
I have moved out of my jammy, but yes, still not fully caffeinated.
Okay, so I had a chance to review all the website content. I know it was a lot of content, so I totally understand if other committee members did not have a chance to get through it all. My thoughts were, as we move through this process, let's kind of focus on getting our new pages up and then kind of go back and retailor some of our landing page and stuff like that. I'd really like to get this Just for Kids page up as soon as possible. I think, you know, with the current climate and, you know, kids are home, if we can have some content, games, challenges on there, I think that this is a great moment to get this content out there.
Agreed.
Yep.
So I apologize. I'm working on two computers here. I've got one that's showing the screen here and one that I'm hosting from. So bear with me if I seem like I'm looking in the wrong direction.
Caitlin, I'm also bringing up on my tablet all of the content that you sent over from Karen, but nothing's labeled about, like, you know, Just for Kids or what the content actually is. So could you, instead of me going through every one, could you kind of zero in on, I guess the only way we can identify them is by the bytes, and so or maybe where they fell on the screen. I don't know. What do you think? Because I could bring it up, because I can't scroll through this because I have to wait for you to scroll through what's on my screen. You know what I'm saying?
In the email, you're saying the attachments?
Yes.
You should.
I mean, there's no content on mine, so maybe I'm just the only one that has this. I don't have any description for, all it says is draft website content, and then it ends there, and then you have to go in. So in order for me to bring everything up, it's, you know, it's going to take me some time for it to do that, because on my tablet I have to download it first and then I have to view it. It's a little bit different. But
What
anyway,
was the date? I don't even see the one that shows all of the content.
it's April the 1st.
I don't have it.
Oh, that was that's what I got.
Nope.
No.
Well, I apologize about that, Mary.
The FAQ page. Yeah.
I have the FAQ page, but that's all it includes is the FAQ.
Yep.
Oh, nothing else? Oh. Okay, so I found the Just for Kids page, and because so I found that one, but I don't know about any others. But I can go through them just as you put them up. That's okay. Don't worry. This is just for me. So
Mary Kay, the subject line is forward FAQs page, and
yep.
And you should be able to see all of the attachments in there. I think
okay.
What the problem is they all start with draft website content, and it's probably cutting off the end where it actually says the name. So I'll remember that for the future, and I'll try and label them a little bit more clear with something towards the beginning. Okay, so now we're back here. Okay, so is everybody all set, ready to dive in here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so for whatever reason, when I started with this page, both mine and Karen's comments came up as authors. So I tried to label mine here with a K. Now that I'm thinking about it, that could be Karen or Caitlin. But the ones that say author and have a K like that, those are my comments. So my first comment was I like that we talk about waste diversion here. We know through our survey that this is something we've identified that is a term that we like to use a lot, but people aren't necessarily familiar with. So I'd like to add that to our frequently asked questions page as well. I think that would be valuable.
Great. Agreed.
Yep.
Okay. And then, of course, here's our discussion about climate change. Again, we really want to kind of avoid that term. It's a very hot button issue in our town. But I think that there is room here. You know, the kids in our town and the adults in our town, they all know where the landfill is. They've smelled it, they've seen it, they've driven past it. And I think that's something that's really unique to our community. A lot of people don't know where their garbage goes once it leaves their house or their transfer station. So I think that we, you know, we can definitely tie something in here to that as well. I think that's a unique opportunity that we have.
Agreed. Okay.
And Karen, when we're done, I will forward you these, all these comments, the documents with the comments on them.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think I have to add a little thing here, though. I'm not so sure all of our residents, all of our resident kids are familiar with a landfill. And the reason I say that is because, you know, probably a better half of our community has their trash picked up for curbside. So the curbside kids probably don't have quite the same understanding as families that go to the transfer station. So I know that we're close, but I'm just wondering if kids, and I don't know what age kids would be reading this, but I'm sure that some kids don't know that we have a landfill that's so close that they've driven by. They might not have that information at all, just because they're not so closely entwined with their trash as people who do come to the transfer station. So we just might think of that for a moment and just consider that our explanations will be, do you know that you have a landfill in our, you know, that's only 10 miles away, you know, something like that.
Right.
We could certainly pose it in a question format. You know, have you seen the landfill? Have you smelled the landfill? Because typically when I go into the schools and I do presentations, I always ask that question. I say, who knows where our landfill is? Have you seen it? Have you smelled it? Have you driven by it? And about 90% of the kids raise their hands. Most of the kids have some familiarity with it.
Caitlin, can you scroll over a little bit just so I can thank you. Great.
I can zoom out a little, but I think it might make it too small for you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Is that too small for everybody?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, then we can see a
Did
little
you
bit.
eliminate though, or can you take this bar with all of our, you know, photos here? Can you take that to the bottom? Can you put it along the bottom, or can we?
You would have to do that part.
I know, but I'm saying, will this do that? Will this program do that? I'm not seeing anything up here that.
So if you hover over it, you should have like 3 choices or 4 choices. If you go to the one all the way to the left, it says hide thumbnail video.
Yeah.
Or you can do active speaker.
Well, I'll just try something here and see if I, okay, so if I remove that, if you go to that option on the left, then you get the whole screen, Mary Kay. And you don't have to worry about the photos if you, I mean, you know, for the pictures. It's bigger and it gives much more information there, and but it will still tell you who's talking. We just don't need to to look at ourselves, that's all. Yeah, yeah, that's much better right now. Okay, for me anyway.
So it should be, yeah, you should have some options up there. You can certainly play around with them and see which one works best for you. You can also, if you haven't, you can swap the video with the shared screen.
Yeah.
If your video is too big and your screen is small.
All right, I guess I'm just stuck that we still can't even say the words climate change. It kills me. I can't believe that makes me sick that we're going to take out the word climate change because it offends somebody somewhere. Oh.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling the same way. Climate change, no matter which way you want to look at it, we're not, there's no finger pointing here or anything. It is a fact of our lives that the climate is changing. And that's not a maybe, that is. And I know it just is. I don't know. I don't think we should be afraid to comment. I know at the ECB, we do articles that talk about climate change and what you can do and planting trees and all this kind of thing. It's kind of a cultural subject now. So we're not blaming anybody here for climate change. We're not challenging the idea. We're just saying, hey, here it is.
Jared, do you have any thoughts?
I think if we put it that way, it's okay.
Okay.
As far as wording it that way, what can you do to protect the climate, to keep our anything like that, protect and preserve our climate, and I think putting it that way, the word climate change shouldn't bother too many people. So I think it would be okay to include it like that.
Okay. I like that spin on protecting. I think that kind of mitigates some of the hot buttonness of that term.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Thanks.
Because everybody should be able to agree things that we do will protect our environment and maintain our climate.
Yeah,
so I think
exactly.
Putting it that way, putting it the positive like that, anybody who looks at that word and denies it or doesn't think it's as big a deal as it is, they should be able to handle it.
Okay.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
And if you want to even go farther with that, it says landfills are bad for our health and for our environment, for the environment. Well, you can look at that from a different perspective too, and that is almost like condemning, landfills. But in actuality, landfills can be a benefit, and their benefit is that we get the trash off the streets, out of our waterways, and things like that. We have a place to put our trash. What we're really focusing on is what to do with our trash when we can't, because we don't want to put it in the landfill. You know what I'm saying? Landfills they're like climate change. They're here. We take advantage of them. We use them for our advantage. And it's the way that we use them that would either make it bad or good for our health or bad or good for the environment. I'm not saying that everything in the landfill is good, but certainly what's the alternative to not having a landfill? I think I've always said the landfill is an asset, but we haven't really, but we need to manage those assets to our advantage. And I think that we can't label it bad.
Well, we want to minimize negative impacts of a landfill.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
The landfill is there. It's like climate change. It's there. We have to manage the, as Mary Kay says, the impacts. Yeah. That's the whole thing that we're doing here, is that we're managing those impacts with, all the work that we've been doing around recycling. Mm-hmm. So they're a fact of life, but come on, we can do a better job, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and let's remember, this is our kids' page. So we need to keep our concepts, digestible, and, that's, that opens up another whole big debate. I think we need to keep things fairly simple and digestible here.
And I think that this landfills are bad for your health and for your government or for your environment, I think is making a statement that is not entirely true. Yes, landfills can produce liquid toxins that pollute our soil, and that's why we have to manage what we put into this thing. So,
I would suggest we could get rid of the, for just to keep things simple, but also not make a statement that we don't necessarily want to make. Perhaps just getting rid of the first sentence and just saying that trash in landfills can produce liquid toxins, etc. And there you're not making such a negative statement about landfills overall, but really getting right to the heart of the problem, which is that some of the trash can have these negative effects.
How about we put it that even before that, landfills have a limited life. So we need to, kind of like going on what Joyce was saying, we need to maintain and preserve them and manage them properly, because, you know, once they're full, then what do we do? So the more we can get away from them and divert from them, the longer they will last for the things that we can't recycle.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really. Yeah,
and I think landfills have a limited life, and eventually we won't be able to use them anymore, or something to that effect.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the next sentence there, that we can divert waste from the landfill by recycling it. And so then the answer could be something like, because it's a limited asset, you know, because it has limited capacity. And so we have to prepare for, you know, years down the road, how are we going to benefit from that asset being there or not?
Yeah, I think emphasizing the limited space or capacity is a great idea. You know, I talk about the landfill a lot when I'm presenting at the school, and originally it was not part of my presentation, but it gets such a reaction out of the kids that it's something that I really started talking about more. And I think we could kind of talk about how somehow incorporate the idea that when you put something in the garbage, it doesn't just disappear. You know, it goes to a landfill, and then you know, our kids are going to inherit these landfills. They're going to be the ones responsible for monitoring, you know, that the leachate isn't polluting groundwater and, you know, all that kind of thing. So maybe this would be a good opportunity to kind of squeeze something like that in there.
Yeah, that's probably a great idea. The one thing I'm thinking of a visual that I saw, oh gosh, I don't know exactly when or where actually, but maybe Karen can help us with this. I'm hoping that there would be some visuals in the Just for Kids page, especially because to simplify the process and things like this. These are words, you know, they're going to be perhaps, you know, younger kids that are going to be reading this. And let's hope, but I'm also hoping that we can have some kind of visual, like we could have the truck, you know, that hauls the recycling going down the road. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of visuals out there that we can have. They don't have to be big or anything like that, but it can help to kind of, you know, simplify a process here that maybe with in saying it with words might not do what a visual could do for kids.
Joyce, like just like even like a picture of a landfill? Are you even thinking?
Yeah, I'm talking about, here goes the truck, okay, and it goes down the road, and then here you see the stacks or whatever you see for the landfill, and then you see it dumping, and then you see that they're sorting it. I've seen a lot of things that would simplify that. So I wondered if Karen could help us with some kind of those visuals that she might be able to have seen before, or in this whole page, Kids for Pay, you know, this kids page. I think
even still photo, even still.
That's right.
I mean, that's a really good point. A picture, as they say, is 1,000 words. So even still photos, kids who have never seen a landfill, it's having come from a city, I didn't see one until I moved to the country. So it's really good thought.
Yeah, are you I think, Joyce, you're kind of talking about an infographic kind of thing is what
exactly. Yes. And of course,
I think this would, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Your turn.
Looking at the wording on this, looking at it, diving and thinking about it that way. If we're trying to get younger elementary school age kids who are just searching around, looking at things at 5th, 6th, 7th grade, we would need more of that. I see this as more, 9th and 10th grade, so older kids, high school age, who are going to sit through and read that amount. So adding those images would be a big draw for a lot of those younger kids. If you make it like a graphic novel, they'll all read it.
Yeah, yes, right. The comics. And I think that we have to keep that in mind with this page. And you bring up a good point, Jared, that, we're expecting that all age levels will probably meander to it. And so I think we have to keep that in mind about, what will a 6th grader, how are they going to read this? But then, the 10th grader too. So we kind of have to meet that somewhere in the middle.
And Karen, that was a question I had about all of the pages. And it may be because I know we were going to get a subscription for another round of images, and we haven't really had a chance to dive into that, and that may be why. But can you maybe talk about a little bit more about how the images are going to fit in on all of our website content?
Yes, so you're absolutely right, Caitlin. We do have another round of subscription. So we have, in terms of stock imagery, we have tons and tons and tons of things to choose from. And we can provide recommendations for, that includes both photography as well as some clip art or graphical content. We can provide recommendations for each page. We want to wait until we have a final set of content, written content, before we find images or finalize images to include that support the written content. I absolutely agree, not just for the kids page, but for any page, that including visuals is a must-have. So our intention is to provide recommendations for stock images from that folder. But of course, if there are images from the town or from the actual landfill, we could include those as well. Creating an infographic is a little bit more labor intensive. So I would say let's make a list of what, certainly a kids page, an infographic is a valuable thing, but is there another area where we could use a similar sort of infographic and make the most out of our efforts there. So I would suggest let's finalize the content, and then let's discuss how visuals can support that, whether as much as possible on each page having some images. I would highly recommend. It keeps everyone more engaged. But if we're going to create any images from scratch, let's go through everything and then identify where what would be of most value.
Sounds good.
Plan. And one of the other things I kind of wanted to chat about, and this might be a good opportunity, we still have a little bit of wiggle room in our budget where if we did want to add some infographics, we still have room in the budget for that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And then I also, I've sort of been scheming on the back of my mind and saying, okay, as soon as I have a little bit more time when I'm working from home, I'd like to start putting together some video content. I have a couple of ideas for kids projects based around recyclable materials. Now, this is a whole new area for me. If we submit raw video content to you, is that something that you would be able to help us kind of polish up?
Yes, video content can be intensive to edit, but it doesn't have to be. A little bit of additional planning typically on the front end can save some time on the back end, and how much has to be edited. I would say let's discuss that and find out a cost-effective solution because we don't want to burn the rest of the budget just on video, obviously. But I think it's a wonderful idea, Caitlin. And right now, when kids are home from school, parents are looking for activities. I know I'm looking for activities for my daughter to do. So it's absolutely, I think it's a great time to put those together.
Great. You can't see the pile of recyclable materials I have behind the computer that I've been collecting. My first idea was kind of showing how you can start seeds really easily using a lot of things like toilet paper rolls or, you know, I've done a lot when I was a preschool teacher, making little greenhouses out of strawberry containers. And you can fold up, you know, for older kids, you can fold them up out of newspaper or paper bags. And so I was kind of going to put a couple examples of those together and just make something kind of short and sweet.
Great.
Sounds like we'll all be getting our Girl Scout badges. As a former Girl Scout leader, these are the projects that we used to do for our badges. So
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely tapping into some of my old preschool ideas for sure.
Great.
Okay, so that sounds like all good things, and Karen, that's definitely something we should schedule time to chat about. I'd love, you know, any guidance you can give, you know, do this, don't do that, you know,
Absolutely.
lighting, those kinds of things. So
Yes, my husband is actually a videographer, so that's very
great.
much in my wheelhouse, so no problem.
Wonderful. Then you will be a great resource for that.
The other thing that we might avail of ourselves locally is to contact FLCC TV, because we have had conversations with them at town board level about filming, you know, videotaping like town board meetings and other things like that. Didn't go very far a few years ago, but they have the opportunity to do that where you can actually go to their studio and they can just, you know, you can just bring your things with you and then they have the ability just to videotape that. So that might be a resource just locally that we could use. And then, you know, that would save Karen some time, I would imagine, you know, to making it look more professional, because we would have a local, you know, authority to do that for us. Lighting is a big issue with this. I know I've been involved in it, and, you know, you could do take after take just on the lighting. So it might be appropriate for us to go ahead and get a little local advice.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, you know, I know that the college is closed and
yeah, that's true.
It seems very unlikely that they will reopen before the end of the year, but if they have students in programs remotely, maybe we could submit video to them.
True.
And they would help us edit it as a project. So okay, so we'll put our thinking caps on about that, and if anybody has any project ideas, I have a Pinterest folder full of them. But if anybody wants to, you know, Jared, I could see you and your kiddos doing one, working on a project.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be fun to, you know, reach out to some other town departments. Everybody's home right now with their kids, and I think we could really come up with some great content.
Great.
Okay, so let's jump back into our kids page.
So Caitlin, one last thought, sorry to interrupt you, just related to imagery and videos, any other content that we're putting on the website. We should also, once content is finalized, have a discussion about layout. What we've provided here is just a rough layout that mimics, you know, the 2-column versus 1 column, this is actually 3 columns width. But in some cases, especially for a kids page and for the FAQs page, being able to have drop downs, if those are possible. If those aren't possible, we may want to talk about a couple of other options. So let's also plan to have that discussion as well.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I've been kind of exploring the website in general, and our options are limited, but on the initial first page, we have some drop downs I haven't
Okay.
had experience setting those up, but I can probably just copy that page and kind of pull that. So our options are a little bit limited, but I think that we can work within them.
Great. Okay.
Okay, I love this part about what the transfer station is. I think that's great for the kids page. And I didn't really have any comments there. The one comment I had on, and it was on several different pages, I tried to put a little note about it on each page just to remind you. Our food waste program and our yard waste program are different programs, actually. They don't all get mixed together. All the yard debris and yard waste goes in a pile, and that's turned into mulch that we provide to our residents for free. And then all the food scraps go into a toter, and they're hauled off-site to a compost facility. We do include things like shredded paper and stuff like that with the food waste, but the yard waste and yard debris is a separate program.
Got it. Thank you.
I liked the monthly challenges. I thought that that's a great idea. Now you say, I thought you said somewhere submit it, displayed in a graphical box. I wasn't quite sure. I guess, could you explain kind of what you're envisioning as these looking like on the website?
Yes, it's really, and again, I think we need to have a discussion about, what's possible in terms of layout. We want to do just something to make this visually distinct from, so it doesn't get lost with some of the other content, or so that it's in a recognizable place each month where, kids, maybe visiting this page multiple times know that they can go to that one place and find a new monthly challenge at the beginning of each month. So again, I think that this is something we can present you with a little bit more specific idea for what would, in terms of what's possible for your website, just something that makes it visually distinct and gives a visual cue to the reader.
Okay. Are you kind of thinking, I don't know if anybody can recall the graphic I put together for the plastic bag and film. It kind of has the hand with the plastic in it, and it kind of just has some text boxes around it. It was fairly simple, primary colors. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yes, I think that would be great.
Okay. And that's something too that, if we start to get tight on budget, that as long as I have the images in our stock images folder, I can certainly put something together like that as well.
Can I ask a question regarding the first option up there under this? Yeah. When you're on this is what about taking a photo of your family members throwing something in the trash. What do you plan to do if they're going to send you a photo? What do you plan to do with their submissions? Are these something that you're going to post then? Every time, if you're doing or starting a garden, or whether you're taking a photo, then the options would be for the town to post these onto this page or onto a separate page, or I just wondered what the next step will be. Is that how we're envisioning this? Or like it's not a contest necessarily, but maybe we could have a contest, but I mean, how the kids responded to this on every given month.
So go ahead, Caitlin, if you have some ideas, but I also have some to share.
What I was picturing in my mind is that, our monthly challenge can be a Facebook post, and kids can post in the comments, or parents, if they want to share photos. And then, as the town administrator, if there's anything we need to remove or change,
so this will be strictly for Facebook, and this won't be, the monthly challenge wouldn't be on the kids page. Is that what you're saying?
It would be both, is what I was envisioning, is that it's on the web page and then we would share it on Facebook as well.
Okay. All right. So then when you got a response, then you would post it on our webpage, but on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know exactly how this works. They could post on Facebook themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works? Okay.
Karen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would recommend to have, if the children are old enough, submit it through their social media, through Facebook themselves, or have their parents share it. Typically, we would recommend only taking a couple of examples or a few examples to share on the website. Our hope is that you get a really robust response. And I don't know that you want to necessarily put in the type of infrastructure on the website to be able to share everything unless you have a feed that's picking up from Facebook that's also populating into your website. So we could discuss options for that if you're interested there. But just, picking a couple of great examples to share on the website each month, I think would keep the visitors to the website enthusiastic. And for that, we just recommend not including faces, because you can get into with children issues where a parent maybe wasn't aware that their child submitted the image and create issues.
There'd be a lot of liability there.
So we just recommend you don't actually share anything that's a face or some other information that might be considered sensitive. But to the extent that anybody wants to participate and share it to the Canandaigua or Town of Canandaigua's Facebook page, that's usually less of an issue because it's still their property, so to speak, and they're just sharing it on the page.
Do we have the ability to do scrolling pictures on the website?
Yeah,
kind of like a photo show.
Yeah, if you open the landing page for the Town of Canandaigua website, you'll see at the top it scrolls through a number of photos. So
yeah, so if we did that with some of those challenges, keeping in mind being careful of all the issues out there, so people are seeing those what are there on the website, and they're seeing 4 or 5 pictures of things that people have submitted scrolling through there.
Mm-hmm. I think we could utilize that on a lot of these pages. We could, even on the recycling page, each box in the brochure, there was the one about, glass, and there's the one about box board. We could have each of those be a separate image that scrolls along the top. Something like that could be really effective.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we ready to scroll down?
Yep. Yes.
So I definitely like the idea of including some kind of game. Did everybody have a chance to click on the link that Karen provided there?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can bring it up for you guys. It was pretty easy to describe. It's basically kind of like you print it out and you cut things out, and then it's kind of like a matching game or a memory game. What are everybody's thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think any kind of game that, spells out a process or blends information or knowledge is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
What are our thoughts about something that has to be printed? And Jared, maybe you can speak to this. I don't have a printer at home. Do you think that most families do?
I think a lot. I mean, honestly, I would say yes, but then because we use it all the time for school and scanning and all that, but I don't know. I think most of the kids have the ability, at least before we went digital, they had the ability to print things and get them ready to turn in papers and stuff like that.
But do we want to keep encouraging printing of paper?
Yeah, I don't know that we want them to print that off to be able to have that, because it's going to get printed off and then thrown away or recycled. So hopefully recycled. But
yeah,
that's a good point. Getting them to print all these things off, depending on how large, what it is.
Well, and you know, I love the idea of something interactive or some sort of digital game, but I really don't think that that would be in our budget. You know, maybe Karen, you can touch on that.
Yeah, I think and I can do a little bit of digging on my end and put together some costs so that you have those, because I agree that would be a nice solution that's both inclusive and also doesn't create additional waste. Paper.
Sorry,
But my thought is it's going to be fairly costly. Let me talk with our developer and see if I can get a couple of estimates for what something like that might be.
I think keeping it all digital for right now anyway, as we move into this, might be the most cost-effective, way to go. But also, it would just keep it it would just keeps it more simple if it was just something that they can do themselves digitally, like take a photo or something. So,
Yeah.
it's
and
just
it practices
simple.
what we preach.
Yes, yeah, that's very true. And we have many years to amplify and do all kinds of things with these pages. This is just our initial swipe at at some of the ideas that we think will grab their attention. But I think we're going to learn how to do this as the years go by, because this isn't just for this year. This will be for
Right. And what we could do is something that's more like a quiz, rather than like a drag and drop type of thing, where I'm thinking of images from the brochure. Where is this supposed to go? And click on the right, and then you get a
great
result.
idea.
So
Yes.
let me look into that. That might be quite a bit more affordable than doing something a little more game-like,
yeah.
for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can even do the images, from the brochure itself.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel here with images, because we've already got them in the main brochure. So we could just kind of, turn some of those images in from our brochure, into a game.
Right.
And I wonder too, if there's any games out there already. Is there anything?
Good.
It's a little hard because recycling varies region to region. But maybe we can do a little bit of research and see maybe there's something existing or adaptable. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make a note, Caitlin.
And then my other comment was for number 11, find something to repair. My only thought was that socks are kind of boring. Like maybe we could do, sew a hole in your favorite shirt, or, something just a little bit more exciting than socks.
And it harkens back to the 40s.
I inherited my great grandmother's sewing kit, and there is a darning egg in there, and it's one of the only things I've never used.
You might have to also look up or find instructions for some of these things, which might be entertaining in itself to actually find. And you probably could find this on YouTube or either on Pinterest or something. You'll find people who are darning their socks, and that would be a very interesting video for kids to watch, I think.
And I think that doing something that people might actually, put in ideas here that people might actually do. We should be able to come up with something like repair a book binding. It ain't going to happen. I mean, there's got to be things people fix that someone would say, oh yeah, I never thought of that. But
glue a broken toy back together, that, kids probably could, manage that or do that. So we'd have to find things that are, in the realm of their capability.
Mm-hmm.
Jared, what are your thoughts on that? You're our kid expert here.
Yeah.
That would be more like bikes or toys or things like that for repairing. Clothes, not gonna really happen.
True.
Or I would even say look around. I mean, just since we've been sequestered, we've been with my sister most of the time, a lot of the time, so we still kind of go down to their place. We're the only ones that see each other. My son came up with an old gun that he found in their basement that was my dad's or something, all rusty, doesn't work, an old shotgun. We sanded it, the barrel, the stock, stained the stock, sanded the barrel down, painted it, and now he's got a toy, you know, that he plays with. So can you look around in the attic or in the basement or find something that you could repair or reuse? So, something like that. But I mean, so much of right now is technology that once it's broken, you can't do anything with it.
True.
And maybe we can, and maybe this isn't, we could pivot or add an additional category. You know, we have make a gift for a family. What about make a toy? You know, you can reclaim something, or, you know, when I was a little girl, I loved to sew. You know, I was always sewing dresses for my Barbies, and I was making little dolls, and you know, maybe, and that has, you know, turned into me learning that skill. And now, you know, I have a mending pile. I have, you know, shirts with holes in them that need to be stitched up, or, you know, you know, maybe we can focus on building skills here that ultimately, you know, as they grow into adults, they utilize.
Kind of goes hand in hand with number 12, you know, make that gift for a family member.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, all of that's good. Any kind of new information for them to do something, I think, around, you know, recycle materials is good.
Right.
Okay. Okay. I thought these did you know categories were really great, Karen. This is exactly the kind of content I think that is not only great for kids, but adults as well.
Great. Caitlin, I think I had one question here that I didn't include, which is to what extent do you need to have, I'm sure for children, some may find this interesting or useful, some may not, but to what extent do you need citations? Like I'm thinking about a kid who's using this for a school report, that could be useful. For a kid that's just using this as a did you know to get interested, you know, we don't want to necessarily weigh it down with citations. I don't know if you had any thoughts or opinions on that. We can always provide them, and you can have them at your disposal if you'd like.
Jared?
I don't think I wouldn't put them on this. Yeah, that would be my first initial instinct. I don't think we need them on this.
I like the idea of having them, though, in case a kid is working on a project, and we could have a little note, you know, using this for a project.
Further, like maybe a link for further information, and they can click it, and it'll open a separate page with the citations for each of these, or where they can find more information about it. But I wouldn't weigh it down with having that in each one.
Did that answer your question, Karen?
I'm so sorry, I was unmuted. Thank you. Yes, that does answer. Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, we made it through the kids page. Great. Anybody have any last minute comments, Karen? Anybody?
No, I love this did you know section. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, really great job on that.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Let's keep plugging along here. Oops. All right, let's see. Oh, of course, I lost my page here. Bear with me. Okay, I would say
we see you, but we don't see the PowerPoint.
I'm deciding which one to open next.
Oh, okay.
Do we want to do, let's do the donations and repair directory. I think that one might be pretty quick.
Okay, where would it be, or how many kilobytes does it have? That's the way that I can identify that.
Mine has 416. I think it's 2nd or 3rd.
You'll be bringing it up though, Caitlin?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
because
All right, I'll be looking for it too.
okay, so what's the title again?
Donations and repair directory.
Okay.
My goodness.
Nope, wrong one.
Okay. While everybody's getting situated, I have to let my dog in.
Okay, got it.
Which one, do you know
It's-
which attachment it was, Joyce?
The second one.
Oh, okay.
You
Got
need to lay down. Okay, go lay down. You're gonna want to play, aren't you?
Of course.
Okay. I don't know if anybody can read this top comment. It might be blocked by your images a little bit. It just says, Environmental Committee, I know there are more options locally. Please help add to this list. So I don't know if anybody has a good list of local donation places or.
The other one is the, right on Main Street there, oh God,
The what?
I'm trying to think, not the army, not the,
The Salvation Army?
no. It's if you are a veteran, if you are,
The VFW or the Legion?
thank you, the Legion.
Oh yeah, because there's the donation boxes around. Like we have the one at the transfer station.
Correct. They have a couple in the back.
Okay.
The American Legion. Thank you, Jared. I could not think of it.
Yep.
And don't forget, you can also use the CCIA, the Community Churches in Action. They have, in cooperation with DePaul, they have a container behind the Thompson apartment buildings, and it is frequent. And they have a food cupboard there. They're very active back there. In
Oh,
it's right next door to the church, I think it's the Episcopal Church. But you just have to drive around to the back, and actually that's where I take all my stuff. And
I don't even know where that is. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah,
Thompson.
I think most people wouldn't know that, so that'd be a good one to have on there.
Yeah, the Thompson Apartments are right next door to, right across the street from the library.
Oh, of course. I know right where you
Yeah,
mean.
it's right back in that area.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you just have to drive around to the back, take the
Okay.
driveway in it and circle around to the back. And they also have their clinic. Jordan Clinic is back there. So they have a lot of people
Wow.
coming and going all the time.
All right.
And they're very, they're very accommodating, and they take mostly clothing, but they also take some, like housewares, not a lot because they don't have a really big space, but then they've got the food cupboard too. So if we want to do something about food, all right, so we have community kitchens in our neighborhoods also. And so I don't know what so donations, if people are having their summer gardens or whatever, I'm thinking that food would also be a good way to, have information for that. I don't know if we're right here, but certainly somewhere.
I'm a little hesitant. I think here we should focus on clothing, houseware, and furniture.
Okay, that's fine. But we shouldn't lose the fact when we come to our food, when we come to our food recycling, we're going to ask the question, if you have extra food, even if it's canned food, where would you take it?
Yeah, I think that would be a more appropriate place to include that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so Karen, what I'm thinking is we need to, as we add additional resources here, I think that we need to maybe break it out with what they accept.
Yes, by category.
Clothing,
Agreed.
housewares, furniture. So CCIA, I'll look and see if they have a website. I'll see what I can find out about them and share some more.
Okay, and then don't forget our own donation area that we have.
Yep.
You know, you can, and that leads us into, you know, what will they take and all this kinds of stuff. So that is one of the donation areas.
Great. Okay.
How about, what about the consignment shops that are in town? Do we want anything like that?
I don't see why not.
Because I looked up one. It's the Treasure Trove on Main Street. I only knew about it because because of Facebook, and people have put, you know, one day somebody was complaining about it and then blew up the feed, the Canandaigua feed, but something like that, because I think they just accept donations, and I don't know. I know that they're pretty much, they cover their operating costs as far as I know.
Okay.
But that's another one on Main Street.
Yeah, that would be a great one, because even if you go to Goodwill, you're still going to have to buy. You know, you can give to Goodwill, but you also, if you're going to take something, you're going to have to pay for it. You know, not much, but still, that's a transaction.
Humanity is the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if Treasure Trove, I don't know much about it, but it might be one.
All I know is
local.
That my daughters went there during the Christmas vacation when they were in town, and they got all kinds of nice little things. I mean, it was a very, very quality, you know, kind of transactions that they had. So, yeah.
Great.
Okay, anybody else have any suggestions?
Caitlin, I'm wondering if you have, and I could do some research into this, but if you may already be aware if there are any local area upcycle or swap social media pages. These aren't things that exist in brick and mortar stores, but are just more resources on social media that people use.
I know Farmington has one, don't they?
And I think Victor, they have their swap shop.
Canandaigua has a swap and trade Facebook page, I think.
Okay.
Oh yeah? Oh, cool.
That would
but
be
I mean,
fun
we can also mention, don't forget, you know, even reminding people things like Craigslist, put it on there. I mean, you can pretty much get rid of anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't want to open up to liability in case there's some Craigslist murderer or something going out there, but just, you know, that we have the disclaimer. But I mean, I got rid of 2 furnaces last year on Craigslist within a matter of days. So
yeah, that's a good resource.
You know, it's out there.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so Karen, I'll try and dive into these a little bit more and get some more information together and a little kind of list for you here. And maybe some links to local Facebook pages that are for swapping and stuff. Okay, this is definitely some great local resources. Anything else anybody can think of?
Good.
All righty, let's see here. A to Z, I know that Kevin Reynolds and Joyce were kind of working on. I don't think we need to go through every single item on that page. I think that'll just kind of be a document that we add to as we get questions, and I don't think we need to really spend too much time on that right now. Let's take a look at the food waste one.
Which one is that? Do you know?
Mine says 300 kilobytes. It's in the middle.
Okay.
On this, it's the 5th. On my drop down, it's the 5th from the top.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Now I lost the meeting. How do I do this?
No, that's not it. I forgot, which one are we on now? I'm totally lost
Food
my
waste.
train of food waste. Okay. I'm looking at all of these and I've lost it.
So did I. I'm like so buried, I can't find where I am.
Composting, food scraps and yard waste. Yay. Now, mine is the fifth one down, so
Okay.
I don't know if that, Jared's got a different sequencing, I guess.
Yeah,
5.
did it to make it harder on us.
Yeah.
Which one are we looking for, though?
Food waste,
Oh,
food
thank
scraps, composting, food scraps and
That's
yard waste.
composting, food scraps, and yard waste on the top.
Yeah, there it
Okay.
is.
Okay. We are getting there. We are making technology work. Okay. So my thoughts on this were, and I have a comment way towards the bottom, is that maybe we should separate out our transfer station program page from a backyard page. Right now, the backyard stuff is kind of buried down here at the bottom. And
Okay.
I could see us having a separate page for that, just so it's not, you know, and this is how it is laid out currently on our website too. But as we kind of expand information, what are everybody's thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. So we can.
What do you think? Let me ask. What do you think about referring to this as kitchen composting and yard waste? I mean, really identify that there's what we're doing in that small one that most everybody has in their kitchen, and then yard composting. Because food scraps does go into your yard waste, but don't we want to differentiate between the kitchen composting and the putting it out in your yard?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of talking about here. And I think that you're kind of touching on two issues. Again, Karen, like we talked about earlier, that yard debris, yard waste, we got to move out of this page.
Yeah.
And so yard waste is kind of that separate program. And then what I'm saying is I think we need two different programs. One for the composting that people bring to the transfer station, and one for the composting that people do at home in their backyard. Because we can accept so much more at the transfer station because it is an industrial compost. We can take, you know, meat and bones and dairy and compostable plastics, things that you wouldn't typically compost in your backyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that kind of pulling these apart and being able to offer that resource for backyard composters a little bit more efficiently would be very beneficial. Overall, I don't think I've really had too many other comments on this one. You know, a lot of the information is pretty similar to what we have out there now. And again, as we kind of move forward, we'll figure out how we can better incorporate the graphics from this into the page. And again, you know, talking earlier, I kind of liked the idea of a feed at the top of the page that scrolls through each one of these squares. So when you pull up the page, you know, it flashes, you know, cereal, bread, and baked goods, and then coffee grounds, and it can kind of scroll through some of these different categories. I think that could be really efficient.
I like it.
Any other questions, comments on food waste?
Are we going to talk about compostable bags here? Because there's some I think, some lack of knowledge regarding biodegradable bags and compostable bags. I've had a number of questions just actually recently from friends who didn't know the difference and wanted to compost at home and said, well, I can just use a biodegradable bag. And I said, well, no, you can't. So anyway, she says, well, it says on the package. So anyway, there might be some information. We just want clarifying information on how they're, transporting that when we make that separation between food scraps at home or at the transfer station, just including that in there somewhere.
Yeah, and we do. It's already in there on what's on our website currently, and Karen did include that information here as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, and again, I think that's a benefit to separating out that backyard composting page, is that people can navigate to it a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
Just to clarify, Caitlin, I want to make sure we're doing food scraps, yard waste, backyard composting, all 3 separate pages that, will link to each other, but as 3 separate pages.
Let's take a peek at our special collections page next. I'm not sure that we need a separate page for yard waste.
Okay.
I think we could include that with our special collections page.
Got it. Okay.
Let's take a peek at that one next. Joyce, that one should be 3rd from the end. It's 377 kilobytes.
Okay.
Getting the hang of it now.
Nope, that wasn't it.
Nope. I think
anyway.
I don't even have one that shows 377 kilobytes.
Yeah, I don't either. We'll just keep going here. And
yeah, I can read it up on the screen.
It doesn't look like I really had a lot of comments here.
Actually, special collections was the very last one. So on my list. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think that, it doesn't look like I really had any comments. I can see an opportunity for us to just add yard debris as a separate numbered item here. I like how we have links to these other pages.
Yeah.
And again, I think we could have a really effective screen at the top that kind of scrolls through each of these different categories. So as you're reading the list, you still have some images at the top.
So on the first page there, what items require special collection? You would it says 1, food scraps and yard debris. So you'll separate those 2. Is that what you're saying? And you'll have the food scrap thing, and then you'll have, say, number 2 or whatever item number it is, yard debris.
Yeah, and I think just adding yard debris, we could say, leaves, grass clippings, brush are accepted at no charge. I don't.
Yeah, and we wouldn't want to call that composted. We would want to call that mulching, because there's a difference between mulching and composting.
Yeah, I think we would just call it yard debris collection.
Yard debris.
Okay.
Hey, what if we put pictures? You know how we're talking about increased signage and that, and I don't know, we have a meeting tomorrow, but I don't know what our budget's going to be pretty tight for the next while. What if we took pictures of those places and linked them to here? For example, food scraps. The yard debris. Take a picture of that pile, so people can see it. Somebody who has no clue where it is. Oh, look, there's the yard debris pile. Or food scraps. Oh, look, there's the yellow bin. Now it's done for you when you go in there, but eventually we'll be back to doing it. Folding drop off.
That's a great idea.
Or even have Todd pointing at everything, something like that to liven it up, a little bit.
Good luck with that. I can never get Todd to be in a picture.
We'll have to sneak up or something.
Really any of the transfer station guys. It's more likely to be me pointing at it, but I think that that's a really great idea. And
Agreed.
thank you for reminding me. I had also thought of kind of drawing an overview of the transfer station as if you were looking down at the top and labeling where these different areas are, kind of a map, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Can we pull that up on Google Earth or something and get an overhead image?
Yeah, I basically did that for when I had to reapply for our transfer station permit.
Right.
But Google Earth image is outdated. But yeah, we can pull something together.
I love that.
That would be great.
I think that would be very helpful.
Agreed.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, special collections page?
Oh.
Okay. I'm just wondering, I don't know where I put this comment or if it was just something that I jotted down on a list. Another thought that I had is city residents. I think that right now, we kind of just put their information in a little box, like down here under, the town information. And I'm kind of thinking that we should maybe make them their own separate page just to clarify. I get a lot of calls from city residents. What can I bring? What do I do?
Right.
So I think that could be helpful. And Karen, that doesn't need to be as graphically detailed or anything as some of our other pages. And that's something I can certainly put together as well if it's not really in the scope of this project or within our budget.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to help with that, Caitlin, but I think you're probably, you have most of the information, you know what kinds of questions they're asked. So if you'd at least like to share that with me, then we can, put it together in the similar format, similar voice.
Yeah, I'll just take one of these kind of templates that you've submitted and kind of put some information together.
Great.
Okay, I have one more question here before we leave this page under what items require special collection, and that's number 3, gently used clothing. You know that we can bring more than just clothing. We can bring shoes, especially sneakers. We can bring leather belts. We can bring any kind of a leather purse, anything like that. And I'm wondering where we need to spell that out. Maybe there's a page or a section that deals with that, but at least on this one, we might be able to add a few more items that go into the special collection.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to.
Because I know in our brochure, I can't even remember what we have in that brochure now, but I can take a look really quick. I brought it with me somewhere.
I have a link to it on our website. Let me.
So then we could put, where like a link right there that would, explain more of it, like you have done with plastic bags and films. Check the plastic bags and film page, or we could say, check the used clothing page.
Yeah, here. It's a great link. I'm just trying to figure out how to share it here. Okay, here we go. So here you can kind of see on our website how this bar at the top scrolls through images.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an example. So I think that can be an effective tool. Again, here's the examples of the drop-down menu.
Yeah.
Another tool I think that we can utilize, quick links and tiles, that could be something very effective as well. So here under gently used clothing, I was able to find a really great link. This is the company that collects it.
Okay.
And they have exactly what to drop off, what not to drop off, what they do with it, the benefit to the community. So I
That's
think
a good resource.
A good point, Joyce, is maybe that we can mention, in addition to clothing, you know, some of these other items and say, see the full list here or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what to do with a stuffed animal that your child has used for, 5 or 6 years and it's gone past its useful life? I mean, who would think of that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of those out there, that's for sure.
Well, and I like to talk about, utilizing these organizations too, is that even if the clothing isn't usable, if it's stained or has a hole in it, it can be accepted, and those fibers are then able to be recycled. And the only way to get those fibers to a place where they can be recycled is through a program like this.
Yeah.
So can we revise from the gently used to be a little bit broader?
Mm-hmm. Please do.
Okay.
Okay. Let's take a peek here. Okay. Let's, I think the zero sort recycling and electronics were fairly straightforward. They were basically taken from the brochure. We're getting to about 1023. So I'd like to take a look at the main transfer station landing page real quick. And then I think we should try and wrap it up by 10:30 if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So bear with me here.
There we go.
So probably everybody can't quite see my comment there. I was a little confused, Karen. This is our main landing page, and I didn't really see how it was going to connect to all of those other kind of parts of our tree. Can you maybe kind of comment on that and tell us what you were thinking, what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I actually, the content here is not formatted. You're right. It's not formatted to link out to all of the other pages. So I think if this is going to be the main landing page, we will need to. And I'm sorry, Caitlin, would you mind scrolling down a little bit so we can see the rest of the page? I think that we'll probably need to have links at the top, maybe similar to those quick links that you just showed us previously, so that we can share with people what the full navigation looks like and easily link them off. So I can revise this with that in mind, with that information in mind, so that people can more easily access our different areas.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought, is we have a couple links, but they're kind of buried down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to see this be a little bit more visually appealing and easier to link. Again, I think I really am loving this idea of having images and maybe the different pages of the brochure scroll along the top of this page and we have links underneath, or kind of ways to utilize some of those tools we see on the town's main landing page, I think could be helpful.
Agreed. Okay.
I have a question regarding the brochure itself. We had a timetable at one time about getting the brochure out to our residents. I'm wondering what that timetable looks like now.
So QuickPrints is running bare bones staff. We had an order in to get everything printed and get that project rolling. We paused that. They're not necessarily able to accommodate such a large request. Also, we need to, we have a finance committee meeting tomorrow. I'm a little unclear on if we're still going to be able to get that state budget, which was, or state grant, which was supposed to pay for the mailing. So we have some, you know, if we don't, if we aren't still able to get funds matched through the MWRR grant from the state, our budget is going to be dramatically scaled back, and we are going to have to take a look and kind of pick and choose which items are going to be most important. I did have a bunch of brochures printed to hand out at events like the spaghetti dinner and town hall. But as nobody's seeing anybody in person, they are still in a box at QuickPrints. So I'm glad you brought that up. We should, let's do a digital release of our brochure.
Yeah.
We can get that digitally released. We can do it on Facebook. We can have something highlighting it on our website fairly easily. And then, you know, we have always talked about our seasonal residents a lot. So at this point, I say we kind of hold tight. Our seasonal residents are going to be back really soon. And let's kind of do our mailing in the spring, you know, maybe end of May.
Yeah. I know that there's a funding issue with printing and everything. So it's good that we understand kind of where we'll be at the end of May with all of this.
Yeah. So I think that we're not trying to have too many large expenditures right now, just because there are so many question marks.
Sure. One suggestion for if we're going to have the digital, you know, opening or whatever, Earth Day is April 22nd. That might be a good day for us to capitalize on Earth Day with our new recycling brochure, you know, make it a kind of a big deal.
That's a great idea, Joyce.
I don't know if the town board would be willing to do a resolution regarding Earth Day and the new brochure, you know, transfer station information, all those different kinds of things. But I know that I've asked anyway, and I'm thinking that's going to happen, that there will be a resolution for Arbor Day. So it might at the next meeting. So things have changed, I know, so that might not be a priority now, but anyway, that's always a good thing to have a resolution regarding these and, you know, honoring these days and the work that say maybe that the, you know, transfer station is doing in that regard.
Great idea, Joyce. I'll touch base with some of the other people at the town and see what their thoughts are.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody have any other comments, questions before we close out today?
Thanks for joining us, Karen.
Thank you so much for
Yeah, thank you.
This was very useful. Thank you. Caitlin, we'll go ahead and make the revisions, and then I'd also like to schedule another call to go over some of the design elements that we spoke about, as well as some of our next steps in the strategic plan. Could you let me know what your availability looks like? I'm thinking early to mid next week, if that works for you.
Sure. My schedule is fairly flexible now that there's not a lot of in-person meetings and things.
Yeah.
So I'll send you an email with all of these documents with the comments on them and let you know some of my availability as well.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
Thank you. Stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Well.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good
Bye-bye.
meeting, Caitlin. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.